Okay guys, we're just a few hours away from Diablo 4's open beta, so here's a few things I recommend doing, as well as a quick warning from Blizzard in the past few hours. Of course, you're more than free to do whatever you want, but these are just some of the tips that I have for those who want to make the most out of the free weekend. Starting things off with the announcement when the gates open this Friday to absolutely everyone, we are expecting a lot of people. There will be lengthy queue times, particularly on Friday when we first launch and during peak regional windows. This past weekend helped to forecast the capacity we expect this weekend, and we will be using that capacity to intentionally stress our systems in preparation for launch. Diablo 4's community manager also mentions maintenance windows might happen during the beta weekend, so expect there may be times when they'll take down the servers offline temporarily to deploy infrastructure adjustments or fixes. And of course, there will be a section for bug reporting and technical support, so you're more than welcome to send in your feedback if you encounter any problems. In any case, the beta weekend is the perfect time to experiment with everything the game has to offer, and while you're free to choose what to do at your own pace, I do have a few recommendations. The first one being, of course, to group up with your friends and play in parties. Normally, being close to other players provides a 5% XP increase, which is then doubled if you form a party with them. And I don't want to hear you don't have friends. The weekend is free to play for all, so just invite anyone. Otherwise, you can use the comment section of this video to find other players and join them. Once you do that, just hit dungeons and open world events that you see marked with the orange circles around the map. These will provide the highest mob density, XP, access to bosses, and as a result, tons of loot too. Furthermore, hitting dungeons around fractured peaks will also give you their legendary aspects, which will later be useful to augment your build and promote items to legendary quality. You can of course check these missing ones from the Codex of Power in the main section of the menu. And since we talked about legendaries, as you get closer to level 25, you'll notice more yellow and orange gear dropping from pretty much all sources. I don't expect this to have the same drop rate in the final game, but in the meantime, it does offer room for experimentation during this weekend. However, you don't even need actual legendaries to drop to get a full legendary set, since yellow quality rares can also be promoted via the occultist back in Kyovashad. So if you find any rares with desirable stats like high crit chance or maybe the main stats such as strength, intelligence or dexterity, do go ahead and promote these using the legendary aspects. Keep in mind that this process will also cost veil crystals and quite a bit of gold for each item, so make sure to salvage the rares for the crystals and sell anything below that quality for the extra cash. Finally, one more thing about legendary aspects is that some of them also drop on gear, and these will be outside of the Codex of Power, meaning that they are only one use. So if a legendary item drops with this effect, you can extract it but then only apply it to one other item, otherwise you're not going to be capable of extracting it back. Moving on to number 3, don't be scared to experiment with each class and each skill until you find the one that clicks with you. Each one fits a different power fantasy, and within each class there are different builds that you can choose, usually between melee or ranged, buffs or direct damage, minions and so on. Right now, Diablo 4's gameplay loop heavily favors range builds, so if you're struggling with the early levels, maybe pick that instead. Do keep in mind that respecking can become a bit costly if you didn't hit the dungeons often and didn't sell items for cash. So what I like doing in this case, if I lack any money, is to respec by just switching exactly the nodes that I want to affect. Mostly the starting basic and core abilities, as they tend to just give you options between range and melee. At number 4, even though this might sound counterintuitive compared to the previous points, but do yourself a favor and play on the veteran difficulty right from the start. This further helps with leveling faster since you gain a lot more XP from mobs and also additional gold drops, and the difference in difficulty is almost non-existent to the first one. By the way, you can freely switch between these later on at the world tier statue in the main town, so it's not like you're losing anything. At number 5, let's talk about a few not so legal ways of getting more loot and levels, and this is done usually via loot caves. There's 2 in fact that I used and were really great. One of them is the Dead Man's Dredge right here southeast of the map. A really densely packed dungeon with lots of mini bosses and a lot more chances for legendaries to drop. You can easily refarm this without even having to reset the dungeon by following these simple steps. So once you're done with a run, use the map to teleport outside of the dungeon, and from here just press T to teleport to Kyovashad and do all the necessary item selling to clear up your inventory. Once all of that is done, simply take the same portal back at the start of the dungeon, then enter it, and you're going to notice that this has been fully reset, even if the map technically shows it as complete. On average, I was getting about 2 to 3 legendaries per run and tons of rares that I could go ahead and promote and get the best results for my build. There's another one, of course, west of Nostrova, which is one of the areas you will have to complete. In this one, there's going to be a level 35 boss that spawns on that section of the map. This one can drop eye level 400 rares that you can then upgrade with legendary aspects to get the best legendaries in the game. Do keep in mind that these items will have higher levels than your character, but adding an aspect to them will bring that down so that you can freely equip them, especially on characters at level 25. But moving on to number 6, do not forget about the world boss either. Ashava the Pestilent will spawn 4 times during the free weekend, starting Saturday, March 25th at 10 AM, 12 PM and 10 PM PDT respectively, with a final one on Sunday at 12 AM PDT. This boss will drop a handful of legendaries every time you defeat it, but only once per week will it give you the legendary spoils. These will further provide another handful of legendaries, so on your first kill, that's anywhere between 6 to 10 legendaries in one single go. Of course, you're free to participate in every single run since you're going to still get the normal drops from the boss every time, and you can check a previous video I made with a quick guide on how to avoid some of its most devastating attacks. At number 7, there's one boss encounter you should not miss out on, and that is going to be the Butcher. Of course, this is random, but starting level 15 to 20, you should see it a lot more often popping up in dungeons, usually when you're least prepared. So it's going to be significantly tougher than most other fights in the beta. It's definitely a relentless chase against you, using hooks to pull you in and rushing towards you to stun you, but it's very fun if you keep your distance and you can easily just kite it around the map until you take it down. If you defeat this boss, there's a chance you also get its unique legendary, which is this awesome weapon right here, but of course it also has a chance to drop other nondescript legendaries. Finally, one more tip is to not forget about region progress too, and in the beta there's going to be 2 skill points extra that you can get from this alone, as well as some extra XP and gold. This helps a ton if you want to get 1 or 2 ultimate skills to squeeze in for your build that you normally couldn't. One quick way to farm renown is to hit the smaller sellers that you find around the map. These are super quick, only involve like 1 quick mob that you have to defeat, and they provide about 30 points of renown to finish the region progress a lot faster. For some reason, a lot of people put these down, but they are intended specifically for this purpose: region completion, fast mobs, and some easy loot. Similarly, there are 3 major strongholds in the Fractured Peaks alone, which are these really amazing larger scale castle runs where you have to clear some really strong enemy encounters, but the rewards are great and it lets you unlock these areas as new towns. One of them is Kor Drogan. This is found in the most northern region of the beta map and it's going to be the highest and the most difficult. Another one is Nostrava to the west, and finally Melnok to the east. The final 2 ones are a bit easier, requiring just level 18, but you're going to want to hit all of these at least at level 20 or maybe even 25. In any case, this is it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in game real soon.